So what is up, guys? Suda the Savage back, and today I'm going to be making another video, not exactly a Suda Stories, but I'm going to be telling you about the dumbest things about my middle school. And you may notice about the intro, this time I had a flashlight. Usually I'll start off with a dark screen and be like, yeah, so what is up, guys? Suda the Savage back. But this time I decided to use a white light and say, so what is up, guys? Suda the Savage back. Who knows, I might do it again, but if I keep using this flashlight, it's just going to become too much of a distraction, so let me just do something. Done. This. Gone. None more of that for the rest of the video. So, let's get this started. So, middle school, I'm going to start off with one of the dumbest things, was that it was from 7th to 8th grade. So, you had to spend 2 years at that middle school. In the elementary school, I spent 8 years there, and in my high school, I have to spend 4 years there. So, the 2-year gap, so spending 2 years in a school, I thought is kind of dumb, which I think they should either merge it with elementary school, or I think middle school should either be merged with elementary or high school. But they're not going to do that. I mean, some schools do that. I know some schools go from, like, kindergarten to grade 8, and then they'll go from 9 to 12. But the school I went to, my elementary school was from kindergarten to 6th grade, my middle school was 7th to 8th, and my high school is 9th to 12th. Full disclaimer, if I talk for long periods of time like this, I have a big tendency to cough. So let's just get that out of the way and let's get this video started. So, just a quick general layout of my middle school. It had 4 floors. It had a basement, the first floor, second floor, third floor. Yeah. So the basement was the location of the pool. The first floor had the French room, the tech room, the wood shop, the metal shop. Second floor, it had the office, the gym, and the cafeteria. And then the third floor had the band room, the strings room, and all the science rooms. So yeah, pretty general layout of the school. So there were no registration classes in the pool. There were only registration classes on the first, second, and third floor. So the rules were you were allowed to use any entrance to get. When you enter the school, you can use any entrance, but they had this one rule that if your registration class was on the third floor, you were not allowed to use the main entrance, and you had to go through a side entrance. The only exception to that is if you're returning a band instrument, which to me is incredibly stupid. Just having to, instead of taking a main entrance, like majority of the other students do, you have to go through another entrance and go up another flight of stairs. But when I was in 8th grade, my registration room was right around, actually, the side entrance that the third floor people had to take, but I was on the second floor, so honestly, it wouldn't have been that bad, but I still found it a really dumb rule. So let's go to the next one. So let's move on to lockers. Lockers. It was the first time I ever got a locker. Like when I was in elementary, you'd either have cubby, you would usually have cubbies, or just hooks to hang up your coats and backpacks. But no, this time you have a locker where you can store all your binders, your backpacks, your coats, your boots. It was great to have that, but there were very strict rules about lockers that you had to keep. If you don't need something, you have to keep it in your locker. Like, how it worked in my middle school was that, in the morning, you would say, this is like a 7th grade morning, you'd have 3 classes in the morning, you'd have lunch, and then you would have 2 classes in the afternoon. So let's say for the morning, I had, math, geography, and English. I would have to get my math, geography, and English binder all for that morning. Now, if you forget one of those, you can't go back to your locker. Like, if you do get caught going back to your locker, you get in quite a bit of trouble, which made no sense to me. So yeah, basically, you are only allowed to use your lockers before school, during lunch, or after school. There was no going in between classes, even if you forgot something very important. And also backpacks were to stay in lockers. No, it was stupid. Just because you make it, it's just a lot harder to carry around your binders like this when you could just have your backpack, which, to me, the whole backpack in the locker is a bit more of a nitpick, but you still would get in quite a bit of trouble if you actually did have a backpack in class. So let's talk about being late. Now, they had some very strict rules about being late. So, in my middle school, from 9 o'clock is when the first bell would ring, and that would mean you have to get into school. And then at 9:10 would be the second bell, which means you have to be in class. So you have 10 minutes to enter the school, go to your locker, get all your stuff for the morning, and then get to your registration class. And yeah, but then if you didn't make it into the class by 9:10, then they would close the door on you. After morning announcements, they'd say, go get a late slip. So you'd always have to go get your late slip. I almost had to get a late slip once, but fortunately I got away with it. And yeah, so being late, I had a door that was almost slammed on me, but I jammed my foot in. My foot was caught on the door at the last second. I was able to open it. It was basically just a couple of middle fingers to my teacher trying to lock me out. Get wrecked. So no, that was pretty cringy. I will not say get wrecked again. But they also had rules about phones, and in my high school, the main rule is just don't have your phone out during a lesson. In Glenview, it's don't have your phone out at all. Not during class, not during lunch. If you have like any kind of break, if you're ever caught with your phone, if it's not before or after school, take it away, right to the principal's office, and then you'd have to go after school and get it back. So yeah, the rules about phones were dumb. And also my middle school had a 10-day cycle. 10 freaking day cycle! You know how freaking hard that is to remember? I mean, it only takes me a few days to memorize my whole schedule, but I usually have a schedule in my locker. But the dumbest thing was, in my elementary school, it was only a 5-day schedule. In my high school, it's only a 4-day schedule. In my middle school, it's a 10 freaking day schedule! What is the point of having 10 days when you could just shorten it down to 5 days? You know, be a lot easier to remember. But no, it's not. They didn't decide that. So another thing in my middle school was that you had to take one music class. You either could take general, band, or strings. Now, of course, I knew if I went for strings, it would be incredibly hard, and I don't really like singing, so I actually tried out for band. So I was in band, and I played alto saxophone. I was all right at it. And all that I remember is that I didn't really have a good band class. We were always loud, we were never listening, and we fell very far behind. And I knew when I was in 8th grade, I had one of my friends who was actually in general music who actually had to learn how to play a ukulele. So, you'd have to learn some kind of instrument if you took band, general, or strings. So recently when I was in 8th grade, they actually applied a rule that at 3 o'clock on every Friday, you would have to go into your agenda and fill out all like upcoming assignments that are due for the next little bit. So basically, you'd have 15 minutes, just like, okay, and you'd have to write down everything that's coming up, and if you had everything down, you'd have to have a teacher that would sign it. Usually it'd be my math teacher or my French teacher, and worst would be my science teacher. Now, it was worse with my science teacher because she was very strict about agendas. Like, everything had to go into agenda. Even if you aren't thinking about doing it, even if you're not involved. Say, okay, girls hockey tryout coming up, and if you're a guy and you don't need to write that, she'll be like, write that down, and let's go! Raptors win! 126-110 over the Cleveland Cavaliers. I feel nothing because, Cavaliers suck. But anyways, back to it. You have to write everything down. You don't write it. You had to write everything down. Even if you were not involved in it, everything had to go down in your agenda. So assemblies, I can say it was dumb in elementary school and middle school, the fact that we were not allowed to sit in chairs. I could get over that, but I think the worst thing about assemblies was that they never really had a good topic. Like, we always had at least one assembly a month for character traits, which was respect, responsibility, empathy, kindness and caring, teamwork, fairness, cooperation, integrity, perseverance, and honesty. I forgot honesty. Honesty, it goes, yeah. So honesty, I'm pretty sure, is 8th, and then, yeah. Wait, hang on. Nah, I'm not going to try that again. Wait, actually I will. Respect, responsibility, empathy, kindness and caring, teamwork, fairness, honesty, cooperation, integrity, perseverance. There we go. Those were the 10 character traits. There would always be like one person from each class that demonstrated it the best. Now, I won it every year from 2nd grade to 7th grade. In 8th grade, my streak was broken. I mean, I didn't win every time, but I won at least once every year. So it was always like nice recognition. And also, we had pool class. First time I had pool class, except the difference was it wasn't a unit in gym. It was its own separate class. Yeah. Pool was its own separate class, so that's not a dumb thing. It's just something I wanted to throw out there. And also, every day we had to get some form of physical activity. Now, on a 10-day schedule, we had 5 days involved with... 5 days had gym, 3 days had DPA, daily physical activity. You'd go out for 20 minutes in one of your classes and do some physical activity. Like the least you could do is walk around. If you just walk around the school, you're not allowed to, like, sit. If you sit, it's just, like, you gotta get up and be active. Usually, me and my friends would either play soccer, football, or wall ball. Yeah. We had only a few games we stuck to, and also Ultimate Frisbee. But, yeah. Another thing I'm going to touch up on is that in 7th and 8th grade, we had shots. Now, that's not too bad, since I don't mind shots, but, in, 7th grade, everyone had to get at least 3 shots. Shots for hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and I'm pretty sure there was the hepatitis A shot, then in the middle of the year, you had to get, meningitis shot, and then you'd have to get hepatitis B shot. So, yeah, but usually what would happen is you would, get your shot, and then you'd have to sit for 15 minutes just to make sure nothing happened. Like, you wouldn't pass out, because a few times after shots, I actually saw a few people that actually got lightheaded and passed out. But, yeah, in 8th grade, I didn't have to get any shots. Girls had to get, I think it was, like, HIV shots, so, yeah. But I've been saving the dumbest thing for last, which was lunch. How lunch worked in my school? Well, there were 2 lunches. There was lunch for the 8th graders and lunch for the 7th graders. If you were a 7th grader, you had 3 classes in the morning, you'd have lunch right after your 3 classes, and then 2 classes in the afternoon. And in 8th grade, it was 2 morning classes, lunch, and then 3 afternoon classes. So that part, of course, I can live with, except it's better to have 8th grade lunch since you actually have first pick over everything. Yeah. So, what would happen is, you'd have, like, certain classes go outside at certain times. So, like, 8A, 8D, 8E, FE8A, FE8C, FI7A, and FI7B would all have lunch together. What they would do is, for half, they would either be in the cafeteria for the first half of lunch, and then they would go outside and play. So, lunch was an hour, so you'd have 25 minutes to eat, 25 minutes to play, and then 10 minutes to, get ready for your afternoon classes. So, but I found the dumbest thing was what happened during lunch. You were not allowed to sit. You had to sit with your class because they took attendance. If you ever got caught sitting with your friends, they'd just tell you to go back to your original table. And we had a lot of snitches. A lot of people would snitch on each other. And I had this one friend who was a snitch, but if I ever had a friend sitting at our table, I'd just say, just don't snitch on him. Just let it happen. Let him eat with us. So yeah, we had a couple of snitches, and, if you're not there at lunch and you don't have a note, and you need a note to leave for lunch, and if you don't have a note, well, they call they call home, they call your parents saying you were not present at lunch. Now, I had one friend that actually got away with that for a whole half of a year, since he had to renovate his house and he went over to live with his grandparents who lived somewhere else in Toronto, and, they didn't have access to their home phones, so he basically went out for lunch every day. His parents never found out that he skipped all his lunches. And they also had outdoor lunch, which means you had to eat lunch right in front of the main entrance. You got to sit with anyone you wanted, but the dumbest thing was you had to sit in front of the school. If you sat anywhere else, you'd get in a lot of trouble, you'd have to come back. And another thing that bugged me was the wasps, because main times outdoor lunch would happen would be during the seasons when wasps are out and being pests. But the only advantage I'd say to outdoor lunch was, you could they didn't take attendance, so you could leave. You could leave and they won't call your parents. But anyways, that is my video for today. Thank you all for watching. One of my longer videos, but that's all. If you want to see more videos, take a second to like this video, subscribe to my channel. Comment down below if you want to hear my thoughts on my middle school, my elementary school, even my high school. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat @SusanSavage. Hey, thank you all for watching. Have a great day. I'll bring out the flashlight and blind myself. See ya.